What's up, everybody? My name is Artem and welcome to Q&A number 5. In this video, I'm gonna start with a huge question, and the question was asked by Vasilisa. Hey, thanks for the video, Artem. The first time I saw you on the internet was the Russian TV program with Dmitry Petrov. Did you you did really great. Was this contest hard for you? And I think you already was familiar with Amir at that time. Did you really have the competitor-like spirit while when participating? Did you have the chance to talk to Mr. Petrov and other jury members? For those who don't know, I actually was a participant in a show called Сверхспособности полиглоты. That was like 6 months ago, and basically there was like a kind of competition between the polyglots. So there would be me and two other polyglots, Amir and Juldizai. So they are from Kazakhstan and I'm from Russia. And yeah, so there were a couple of tasks to do in order to find out who's the well, this is not actually the best, not actually the purpose of the show. The purpose of the show is to show that anybody can learn foreign language, and that you don't have to be you don't have to have this polyglot gene to be a polyglot. So basically, that was the idea behind the show. But there was a couple of tasks that each of us had to effectuate, had to do. And my task was to talk to 6 native speakers in 6 different languages, and they would just ask me different questions about my native city, which is Novosibirsk. And yeah, so they would switch one after another, switch the language, and I had to immediately respond in their question. But for me, it wasn't too hard because first of all, I was talking about my city, about Novosibirsk, and I know a little bit about my city. Second of all, I don't have a hard time talking to native speakers because usually because uh, what I do actually is I always try to get to that level when I can communicate. So yeah, that was basically what I do on my daily basis. Yeah, and was it hard for me? I wouldn't say that it was hard because, as I just said, I speak languages all the time. But the problem, well, not German maybe because I also had to speak German. But yeah, not with other languages, it wasn't too hard. It was hard from the psychological point of view because you know that a lot of people gonna watch it, gonna see you speak all the languages, and if you suck, you cannot do anything about it. So there was not no redo kind of thing. So you had to do this immediately, right away. No re-recording, So yeah, I think, well, I did a good job because I didn't fail at my speaking. It wasn't something like extraordinary because as you know, I learned languages for only 4 years. 5 years ago, I only spoke English, and even I couldn't. I suffered speaking English. So of course, I don't have like C1, C2 level in all of my languages. Maybe I do have C1 level in my English and French, but not more. And I cannot prove it because I've never passed the exam. But it feels like I'm more or less comfortable in those 2 languages, and the other languages are intermediate. This is obvious. So yeah, did I have this competitor-like spirit? I don't think so because, well, languages for me is something that I enjoy. It's something that I do for fun. I don't do it to compete with others. And even within this show, uh, I mean, me and Amir were friends. We met first time we met in Greece in a polyglot conference, and we spent a great time. We yeah, encouraged each other. So there was nothing like that. Amir won, by the way. And yeah, basically, I don't have it. I don't want to. I don't want to compete with no one. And with anyone with about languages, because it's I want to compete to myself in, well, basically in all areas of my life. I don't do it to be like the best. I wanna do it because I wanna see my limits. I wanna do it for myself. I mean, improve languages. So yeah, what was the next? Did I have the chance to meet Mr. Petrov? Of course, I had, and it was great to talk to him. He is a great man. He's humble. I don't know. It was just nice experience talking to him, and he's a professional. So yeah, basically this is my answer to the first part of your question, and let's go to the second one. Another question: your native language is Russian, so is mine. Does it help you to learn foreign languages? I mean, there are so many similar words, idioms, constructions, etc. in Russian and European languages. Some of them might not look that similar at first sight, but if we stop and think, we can dig out some that common origin. So, I cannot say that Russian helped me a lot in terms of vocabulary. It definitely helped in terms of pronunciation, because Russian is a very rich language as far as pronunciation goes. Because even with, you know, whenever you learn like languages like Italian, Spanish, you already have you just have to learn a couple of sounds that are not existent in Russian, but a majority of the sounds you have them. You already have them. And yeah, as far as English, of course, English is completely different story when it comes to pronunciation. So is French. But yeah, yeah, learning, and Brazilian Portuguese is so similar. So learning other languages, it was easier for me to learn about the pronunciation due to the fact that I'm a native speaker of Russian. Grammatically, I don't know. Maybe French seems to be a little bit similar to Russian in terms of sentence structure, in terms of word order. Um, but I don't know. I would say that Italian helped me way more than my Russian in learning other European languages, and in particular Romance languages. And the final question is, last question. Your accent in the languages that are so great that I thought maybe you're a musician. As we know, musicians are good at accent and at learning languages in general. So I'm not a musician. I tried to learn a little bit how to play the guitar when I was 14, I think, but I quit because I just didn't feel passionate about it, and I wasn't playing great. I wanted to play great from the very beginning. That was not happening. And yeah, I've never sang. I've never sang. I've never played anything apart from guitar. So no, I'm not a musician, but I think that well, it's not too hard for me to imitate the accent. I still struggle with, and when it comes to English, I still cannot take it to, like, to perfect it. I don't want to use the word can't. I just um, it's not happening right now. Maybe in a couple of months of the work that I'm putting in right now, it's gonna happen. But yeah, my French is not too bad when it comes to pronunciation. The other languages, well, my Russian accent is not. You cannot hear my Russian accent definitely, but still you can hear that I'm not a native speaker. So, and my goal is to sound like a native speaker. So it's kind of, sometimes it's a little bit demotivating, but it's a fun, really fun goal, to be able to pronounce everything like natives do. So, yeah, this is basically the answer to the first question, and let's go to the next one. Next question was asked by Fernando Mir. Hey Artem, how do you divide time between listening, reading, and speaking? So, I think I do not divide any time. I just, the last, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years, I was just completely immersed in learning languages. So it's hard for me to tell how many time I spend doing every activity, because it's very different. It differs. It varies every day. So I would say that I listen. I listen a lot because I find that it's the best and the easiest way for me to practice languages and to improve them. When it comes to reading, I like reading because it gives me vocabulary. So yeah, I read. I don't know, maybe every 2 days. Every 2 days, I read something in the language I'm focusing on. And what was speaking? Speaking, I try to do it as much as I can, but it's not happening. Well, I cannot speak every day, so normally it's like a couple of weeks, a couple of days a week that I speak. But mostly answering your question, I think that most of all, I am listening a lot. I'm listening, 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 like every day. Then I read 3 times a week, and then I speak 2 times a week. So that would be. And in terms of the time, I can listen to from, I don't know, 10 minutes to 3 hours. It is possible depending on the language and depending on my mood. Reading, it's usually not more than 30 minutes. I would just read a. I don't read books. Usually, I read articles on the internet because the vocabulary is simpler, and so I'm talking about the language that I'm working on. Because if I would read a book in German, that would be so hard. So yeah, I normally read. Yeah, I can read books in English. I have one, by the way. But yeah, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes. And when it comes to speaking, it's a couple of times a week. If I'm not talking to myself, which happens pretty much every day, when I film a video or when I do streams, well, not been doing streams for a while, but still I do videos. Yeah, it's same 30 minutes. When I do language exchange, it's also 30 minutes. So we would normally speak English 30 minutes and then we switch to Russian for 30 minutes. Yeah, so listening, I don't know, up to 3 hours, reading 30 minutes, and speaking 30 minutes. So yeah, this is my answer. And finally, I'm gonna start to answer a series of questions on VK by Masha Yurkova. Thank you for the questions. So the first part of your question about the program сверхспособности I already replied. And I'm going to reply to the second part of your first question, which is как выучить за 4 года 6 языков? Это трудолюбие, сила воли или талант, как ты считаешь? How to learn 4 languages in 6 years? Is it working hard, willpower, or talent? What do you think? So there's all of the words that are important, but I mean, maybe the most important thing is the most important word is lacking, and this word is interest. So if you are interested in doing what you do, you gotta do it. You gotta spend a lot of time doing it because you enjoy it. And I've never forced myself until I got to German. I never forced myself to learn a foreign language. It was just pure interest in into in the culture, and the I like the sound of the language. I like the the language itself. So it was just pure interest. And when it comes to in, speaking about talent, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe in some ways, maybe when it comes to pronunciation, I can guess some things better than some people. But also there are people that are better than me when it comes to pronunciation. So I would say that I'm in the middle on that one. And willpower, yeah, sometimes you have times when you don't feel like it, and you don't want to do anything, but you just do it because you understand that consistency is very important, and you develop those things along the way. I don't necessarily think that when once I started learning languages because I had all of those things. I developed them along the way. And the final thing, working hard, of course, it's very important to work hard, and it's more important to work smart. And by that I mean you gotta first figure out what you need to learn. For example, I never learned lists of vocabulary. I only learn words and structures that I need. So how do you know it? You just read things that you like. You read things that you like and you translate the vocabulary because I can read articles on language learning, on I don't know, traveling, on business, on things like that. That I'm interested in these topics, which means that I need this kind of vocabulary. So yeah, you gotta figure out what you need to learn, what you want to learn, and only do this thing. And yeah, and you don't wanna like study grammar all the time because it doesn't bring you anywhere. Basically, what you have to do is that you have to listen a lot. You have to get used to the language, to the way it sounds, to the structure and the words. And yeah, it's just what I changed. I want to make another video on this topic because there are things that I've done before getting into language learning that um, and I couldn't learn English and couldn't learn English applying those things. But once I changed something, and I'm gonna give you a hint, I changed that I started listening a lot. Everything has changed. So yeah, answering to your question, I think it's about interest. You gotta be interested in this topic, and along the way, you're gonna learn about the methods, about the way you have to work efficiently, etc. But you gotta work on your motivation. You gotta develop a strong motivation. Go to the country. I don't know. Speak to native speakers. Um, Listen to music. Watch a film. So these are all things that are developing your motivation, which is gonna help you along the way. Next question is самый популярный вопрос, но все же по-разному на него отвечают. И мне интересно спросить, можно ли выучить два языка одновременно, или ты считаешь, что надо один язык до среднего уровня довести и переходить к другому? Как учишь ты? So the question is, how do you go about learning two or more languages at the same time? And this is true. This is a very popular question. I get asked this question all the time, and probably I will go into detail in a different video, in a separate video. But in this one, I'm gonna tell you that you can do what you want. You can learn one, two, three, four, five languages, but you gotta understand that you probably won't have enough time to spend with all of the languages that you're learning. And if you don't have enough time, that means that your progress is gonna be 5 times. If you learn 5 languages at the same time, your progress in each one is gonna be 5 ways longer. It's gonna take you 5 times longer than if you would just learn one language at a time. But I done it. I learn Thai right now, and I try to get intermediate level in German, that I perfect in my English, and doing all of these things. I'm a unique case because I don't have a normal job. I finished my studies, so I have a lot of time for languages. So it's not a big problem for me, but maybe for those who work, who have a stable job, um, yeah. So and study, it's not possible. They probably in most cases they're gonna quit one language or both. So yeah, it depends on how much time you have. But it depends on your motivation, and but I would recommend to, if you've never learned a foreign language before, I would recommend to learn one language to until I don't know, intermediate level at least, and then you might want to learn two languages at the same time. But never start learning two languages that are similar from zero, because you're gonna mix them up. For example, for me, it was a very good strategy because, well, I mean, learning one language after another, because once I learned Italian, I had a really good basis of Italian, and I could use it as my as knowledge to to better learn French. If I would just learn Italian and French at the same time, it would be a disaster. I would just mix them, and that would be not effective. So now I learn. Thai is a completely different language, so it's not a problem. Then German is also very different, and English is just. I'm trying to get it to the higher level, so it's not a big problem. So I wouldn't mix German and English because they're at a different level. So yeah, this is my answer to you. Wow, it's getting darker, and yeah. So and let's go to the final question. Можно ли как носитель выучить без репетитора, без разговорных навыков? Как носитель выучить язык без репетитора, без разговорных навыков? Is it possible to learn a language like a native speaker without a tutor and without speaking practice? Speaking about tutors, you don't need to have a tutor, that's for sure, because most of my languages I learned without any tutor. But without speaking practice, well, I mean, it depends on what do you mean by learning a language. For me, learning a language, it's um
A priori.
a priori. I don't know. It's um I mean, for me, learn a language, it means to speak it well, to understand and to speak. And if you don't speak, you're not gonna speak. So for me, it's not possible. But if you mean that like you just understand the language and you can read and you can write, of course, and that's for you learning a language. Uh, of course, you can do it, but practice is absolutely necessary. I mean, many people cannot learn a language just because they don't have enough speaking practice, and that's the truth. They don't have listening practice and don't have speaking practice. Those are the most important things. Because yeah, just look at the way kids learn languages. They learn by listening, and then they learn by speaking, and after that, they learn by reading and writing and grammar. So yeah, I think it's better to learn listening first than speaking first. Well, I'm saying
Priori.
here, but so yeah, I think it is impossible to learn a language without any speaking practice. Even though there are people who are saying that in order to speak, you gotta listen a lot, but I don't think that's the case. In order to speak, you gotta speak, and that's the way uh, I think from my experience. Yeah, this is basically it for today. Thank you for your questions as always, and see you in the next video. See ya. Bye. Take care. Take care. Bye. Take care.